podcast. I'm your host, Carlo, and I'm here with Brendan. How are you?
I'm good today, thank you. How are you?
I am well. I am excited. I am nervous. I am really looking forward to doing my jiu-jitsu competition. This is going to be, this time next week, I'm going to be rolling against guys that I've never met to compete in a jiu-jitsu competition. So I am training lots, I am sleeping lots, and yeah, there's just a lot going on. But you know what? I feel ready. So that's how
good.
I am. I'm ready.
That's good. It's all in the preparation, isn't it?
That's it. What's our topic today?
Listening today.
Sorry, what was that? I wasn't listening. Yeah, listening. That's an important one, isn't it? So, with listening, what is it about listening that you wanted to unpack today?
Bit of everything, not only listening to other people, but also listening to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What yourself has to think, like your own internal thoughts, and actually following through on them internal thoughts, and basically
Trusting yourself, you mean?
Trusting yourself, and listening, respecting other people, and
okay. So with what I understand of listening, there's two main components which you've already just briefly highlighted, is that there's listening to others and there's listening to yourself. And they're both very important for many reasons. And what I'll do is I'll break down the first one and then I'll break down the other one. So we'll start with listening with others, because listening to others is something that we do more often than listen to ourselves, unfortunately, because a lot of the time we might have this doubt, we might have this shame, we might have these different things that gnaw at us, and so sometimes we just tend to either withdraw or we forego the things that we think or that we feel, so that either we please other people or respect a certain situation and different things. And so we'll break down why it's important to listen to others, but then also why sometimes listening to others can negatively affect the way that you do things and versus listening to yourself. And so listening to others is one of the cornerstones of a good relationship, because your ability to listen, to be able to take in and absorb information that somebody else is telling you, allows for you to then step into their shoes. And being able to step into somebody else's shoes gives you a glimpse of how they think, how they operate, and being able to understand their perspective. Because often a good conversation allows for thoughtful disagreement, it allows for mutual agreement as well, and it also then allows for things and thoughts to be extrapolated in different ways. So being able to actually receive something you might not agree with is very important. Whereas if you palm it off and you're not very attentive and you're not very respectful, then that relationship ends up disintegrating later down the line, because your inability to listen then downplays what they think, how they feel, and then at the same time it then gets them questioning whether the relationship with you is worth it. And so understanding that listening is one of the key aspects of building a good relationship will then allow for you to build more good relationships, because you're thinking, well, hey, you know what, I'm listening to this person, I thoroughly understand this person, we actually have now a great relationship because I'm listening to them and making them feel heard and seen. They'll be more inclined to do that to me when I'm talking as well. And so then it creates this effect of trusting one another, whether that's trusting each other with things that you talk about, or even just trusting yourself, telling them what you think, and them actually then keeping what you think as well, either to themselves, or if you're allowing them to disclose what you think to others, then that's completely fine as well. You've built that trust factor, and then that is then the cornerstone of a community, because when you have people that listen to you or listen to somebody else, it might be somebody else that you might look up to that is worth listening to as well. When you've got all these people together as a collective listening to what one person has to say, then that person does have influence, but then they also have the people's trust. And so being able to listen allows for you to build trust, whether it's in an intimate relationship, whether it's in a transaction, whether it's in a community. All these different points of relationships and networks all come from effective listening, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, 100% it does. That's even with customer service. I find through work, it's important to listen to what the customer, what their needs are, rather than just going by just selling them a certain item because you think it's the best without actually listening to the full background of why they need something.
Yeah, it's funny because there's always this old aphorism that the customer is always right. Like, it's not completely true because the saying's not complete either. The actual full saying is that the customer is always right in the matter of taste, which means that whatever the customer is after, that's effectively what they're right about. Not, oh, the customer's right that you should put the price down, or the customer's right that you're being rude when you probably aren't. Like, all these different abrupt things that then the customer goes, oh, the customer's always right. Like, that's not the way it happens. A lot of the time, customers are often abrupt because you weren't listening to them in the first place, and then they can clearly see that you don't want to be here, and then instead of treating them well, then you treat them the way that you're thinking about not wanting to be here, and then that energy then just gets put off to them, and then they get the shits. And that's not the way to do things. And so, as you would imagine, when you're dealing with your role with managing staff, I would imagine that when you talk to your staff about how to deal with customers, this is a part of the conversation you will have, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And the important thing about listening is that you need to be able to receive. And what I mean by that is that a lot of the time when we have conversations and we want to either rush to our point or rush to a conclusion, we don't often take in what the other person is saying. We're often just waiting for them to stop so that then we can say what we want to say. And so that is a terrible way to build any relationships whatsoever, because if all that matters is what you think and what you have to say, then you might as well be talking to a mirror, because the only person that is going to get a kick out of that is you. And so unless you learn to listen with the 2 ears and the 1 mouth that God has given you, then you won't be able to effectively get deeper with people, because listening also enables that depth, because you've actually then entered their space now. You're in the vicinity where things would come out that might not normally come out if you weren't listening. But because you are listening and you are taking them into consideration, and then you are also building that web of trust that you have with that said person, things that they might not say to others, they might entrust to you. And so listening is a key component in conversations, in building trust, in understanding things that are going on around you. And so if you don't take initiative and actually listen and then follow up with things, so for example, if someone has a conversation with you about a particular event in their life or a particular thing that they did in the past, and then 3, 4, 5 months down the track, you then recall, oh hey, how was that thing that you were talking about? Hey, shit, you were listening. Oh man, that's really cool. I really appreciate that you remember that. Like, a great example of that was when I was working, and this lady was telling me about how her daughter was doing fencing, or was considering fencing as a sport. Her son just signed up to jiu-jitsu, but then she was saying, hey, I'm not sure if my daughter wants to sign up, it's not really something for her, and she was considering doing fencing. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool, no issue, that. A couple of months later, same lady comes in with her son just to do class, and I have a sit down and a chat, and I go to her, oh, so did your daughter end up getting into fencing? And wait, you remember that? Yeah, of course I remember that. We had that chat, remember? And yeah, but I just didn't know that you would remember. And it's like, those little moments where you are actually putting the other person in your place of importance, that the other person is importance, that's a huge highlight, and that comes from listening. And so remembering names is another one. Like, someone that tells me, oh, I'm not really good with names. No, because you don't care. Like, it's not that you're not good at names, it's that you weren't paying attention to the person's name in the first place. If you can't remember someone's name, it's not that you can't remember the name. It wasn't that. It's that you weren't paying enough attention in the first place to even remember their name in the first place. Because if you were, you would have remembered their names. Oh, Carlo, how are you so good with names? Because I take the person's name into consideration. If I don't remember somebody's name, it's because I didn't take that person's name into consideration. It's not somebody that I thought that I'd be interacting with for a long period of time. And so I make it a point to remember names because a lot of the time people love hearing other people say their own names and remembering the other person's name, right? And that's a really, really good deal creator. If you're in business or you're looking to meet new people, if you move to a new area, remembering people's names, especially when people's lives now are so consumed by their phones, just even remembering someone's name, like that's a huge deal. And so that then allows you to enter somebody else's life and they can trust you with building their relationship with you, and vice versa. If the other person takes that initiative as well with you, that's how you build and formulate a relationship with each other, which is why you have, I imagine, plenty of contacts at work, whether it's with vendors, whether it's with customers, whether it's with even just with work colleagues, like all these different things that we've just spoken about, or I've mainly spoken about, you already do.
Yeah, it's important to take everything on board, and it's a sign of respect as well for the other person who's talking, that you listen to what they're saying actively and not disregarding that information, because it could play a role in the future, whether that be like educating yourself as well at the same time, or for something that they're like struggling with in the future, or whatever it might be. It's really important to listen to what they have to say.
Without question. And the thing is, as well, when you are listening what they're saying, like, you're not disrespecting them, you're taking their full regard as well. There's no disregarding anything. And at the same time, what tends to happen too is that in blatant disregard for the other person, oftentimes we tend to impose our own agenda when it comes to the conversation. And so when we finally remove our agenda because we don't feel the need to be in control of the conversation, then that's when fluid conversations happen, where if you feel that you need to impose your agenda on the conversation, then a lot of the times the conversations will feel very rigid, will feel very strict, very narrow, where the fluidity of the conversation comes from listening and speaking, right? As I was saying earlier, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? So that we can listen twice as much as we speak. And so understanding that premise will allow for you to build not only your repertoire as a good listener, as a person that remembers things, as a person who's respectful and doesn't disregard the way that others think, but you also then build yourself. And then that's how you build trust within yourself. And that's where I think listening to yourself also ties into this, because if you know how to listen to other people and you can build relationships with others by listening, who is to say that you can't then improve your relationship with yourself by listening to yourself? Because the number one person that each individual takes for granted the most is themselves. And so a lot of the time we go, yep, we wake up in the morning, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing this, we're doing that, right? We don't often ask ourselves, are we really content with doing this? Are we really happy with doing this? Are we really making a purpose-driven life choice when it comes to making a certain decision? A lot of the time we don't do that is because we're too busy often pleasing our bosses, pleasing our parents, pleasing our friends, pleasing relatives, pleasing whoever it is. And we don't take ourselves into consideration. And so what's really important here is that when you learn how to effectively listen to other people because of the things that we've just said, it helps you better listen to yourself later down the track. Because a lot of the time when we're born, we're dependent on other people. We're dependent on our parents, we're dependent on our relatives, we're dependent on our school teachers, we're dependent on our high school friends, whoever it is, because we want to be able to connect, we need to be able to survive, and we do better when we're in groups of people than we do alone. And so when we do turn 18 and we do finish high school and we're out of the workforce, there's that empty period of time where we are by ourselves and we realize that we are by ourselves. We don't see school friends anymore. We don't really connect with our teachers, like outside of school. Our parents and us have different relationships now since we're adults and things like that. So it's an evolution. And so by listening and understanding others, like that's a skill from childhood all the way to the end of life. And so being able to actually incorporate that then will help you evolve from that period where you're by yourself to you might get a job where you might be in that job for 15, 20 years and you learn how to connect with the people that you're working with. You might be part of a sports team that might end up together for the next decade because you got a bunch of guys or a bunch of gals at work who you want to do a sport with. You might be like me who travels quite a lot and meets people from all different parts of the world. And so learning how to listen, how to immerse yourself in other people's lives will help you connect. Where now, when you are by yourself and you are either working on your own thing or you're spending time at the gym or you might go for a walk, whatever it is that you're doing by yourself, that then leaves you in a place where you're constantly thinking. And so when you are constantly thinking, what is it the things that your brain is ticking over about? What is it saying? Are you listening to those said things? Because some things can be awfully positive, but then also awfully negative. And a lot of the time it's more awfully negative than it is awfully positive. Because when someone slights you, it's easy to get shits and easy to go, well, I'm going to get you for that, and this and this and this. Your brain automatically does it. Where if someone slights you, you go, oh, hey, you know what, all this good, all this forgiven. It's much harder to do that. Because often when we don't listen to ourselves and we relinquish the power from ourselves and we give it to somebody else, as soon as that somebody else then slights us, we point the finger, we blame, and often or not, we don't actually take our own accountability and responsibility for it. And so by learning to listen to yourself and go, what is it that exactly that I want? And then actually doing that thing, then that gives us clarity, it gives us peace of mind. It gives us that content feeling of we're making progress and we're taking steps in our lives that we want to. Then, with that feeling, then it inclines us more to listen to other people, to take more initiative. Because you know what, we're getting our needs met and we're feeling like that we're making traction in our lives. So therefore, whatever it is around us that is not so working so well, we can actually go and mend, because now we've listened to ourselves, we've gone, hey, look, these are the things that I wanted to set up, here's what I'm working towards, and here's what it looks like. Awesome. All right, let's see how I can go and help somebody else. I know that's how I operate, and it may be selfish, and other people do it different ways, where a lot of the time people put themselves last. And I've met a bunch of people who put themselves last and go and help someone else who may need it and put them in their place instead. And that's such a good thing. Like, selflessness is a really important characteristic as well. And that selflessness derives from listening to others and what others need and taking yourself for granted, and instead of working on you, you go and help other people. Not an issue at all. On the other end of the spectrum, where I feel like I sit, is I listen more to the things that I feel, I trust things that I say, and I learn to understand how other people feel and how other people operate. Like, I come from a different mode of operation. And so learning how to effectively listen to not only the things that I think, but having to learn and understand what other people think and incorporate what they think into the way that I live, that's also another really good way of building trust with someone else. But then that comes from trusting yourself enough to make decisions based off opinions of others. And so you need to be able to take the opinions of others with a grain of salt and go, hey, look, you know what, do they have what I want? No. Okay, then that's probably not worth listening to.
Yeah.
Hey, does this person have what I desire? Yes, they do. Hey, you know what is it that they're doing that will effectively help me get better? And so that's the selfish side of that spectrum. And then the selfless side is, hey, I'm listening more to others than I am myself, because I feel as though that I can make a contribution to other people, and that will have an effect on the way that I live my life. Because I want to make sure that others feel good as well as me. And so there are two ways that I see this. Like there's probably multiple ways that I'm not completely aware of, but the two main ways that have come from my own personal experience is that selfish desire to be able to listen to oneself, trust oneself, develop oneself, help other people as a consequence of my own self-development. On the other end of it, a lot of the time people listen to others and then they learn from others how they develop themselves from others' experiences rather than their own. I don't think there's anything wrong with either. I just personally think that whatever your strongest suit is, you stick with that, but then also learn how to then effectively do the other thing as well, because then it enables you to be stronger in both areas rather than just being dominant in one and then weaker in the other one. Just build as much as possible. And by building in these ways, you're still practicing that listening muscle as well, and you're developing that listening muscle. So I personally think that listening is literally one of the top things that you can do as a person to grow as an individual, by listening to other people who are already where you'd like to be, and then also observing other people who aren't where you'd like to be or are going in a completely opposite direction, and just go, hey, look, you know what? I see what you're saying and I completely respect what you're saying. However, it's not something that I'll be implementing. Nothing personal. It's not like you're a bad person or you're doing this wrong or anything like that. It's more so because we think in different ways. So therefore, I'm going that way, you're going that way, and that's so okay. And you can still be friends. Like, I know that there are people in my life that completely disagree with me on a lot of things, but then at the same time, you still have a regular conversation with them. Like, you don't treat them any different because you feel that you're superior to them because you think differently. That's not listening at all. That's taking complete disregard of the other person, like you said before, and just pigeonholing them into a place where you have no intention of pulling them out, because as soon as they say something that you disagree with, this is how you're going to see them for the rest of your life, and not in any other way. Like, there are some benefits to that, because a lot of the time when you do put a person in a place where they have these particular character traits that demonstrate that they would not be a person that you would need or like in your life, super important. That's where you listen to yourself and you go, hey, this person has demonstrated red flags after red flags after red flags. It's probably time that we stop associating with them. That's important. Also, at the same time, this person completely demonstrates green flags, and other people have said that they've demonstrated green flags. Yeah, you know what? Probably worth listening to that. And so, learning this discernment allows for you to then, again, evolve as a person. And so, that's my rattle on why listening on both ends of the spectrum is really important.
Going back to your selfish versus selfless, sometimes you've got to be selfish to be selfless. Like, for example, myself, I find if I'm not doing what I've said to myself, going back to listening to yourself, if I don't go through with that, that creates anxiety in me sometimes as well. Like, and action cures that, right? So once I do that, that enables me to be more present in a situation, to not only be selfless, right, and help the other people, but more actively listen as well, which will in turn help the situation overall, not only the other person, but also myself, for taking on board that knowledge that someone's giving, or the information that they've decided to give to you as well, because they've put that trust in you. So that's my sort of take. I like to sort of mix both of them together to enable to get the best out of the situation. And the more I rely on my discipline every day to get the stuff done before I go into situations that I can have more of an opportunity to be selfless, the better it is for everyone.
Without question. And like you were saying, life is a mix.
Yeah.
It's not black and white, it's often grey. And so even though we have these black and white principles that are really easy to identify, then when you go and implement it, it often isn't as black and white. And so understanding that you have elements of the black as well as the elements of the white, and then you mold it and craft it together to formulate your own little grey area, then enables you to then choose what you do with that said grey area. And so, like you said, you like to use that discipline to be selfish, where you're going, hey, I'm working on myself, I'm training, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, so that then you can take every opportunity to be selfless when you're in the presence of others. And being present is the ultimate form of listening. Because if I wasn't listening and I was thinking about something else completely, then this conversation would be rendered useless. And so for you to iterate your point, you've got to make sure that the discipline that you're practicing for your self-growth then allows for you to be as present as possible when you are in the company of others. And so when you're using the practices that you've made, then you then better become a different person, a improved person, an improved version of yourself. Jiu-jitsu is exactly the same. You learn all these different techniques and all these different moves, but as soon as you go into a scrap, as soon as you go into a roll, those techniques, they come as a survival skill, right? As a second nature implementation of what you've practiced, because then your opponent's not going to be in the position that you want them to be in 100% of the time. And sometimes you got to make things up on the fly. And so sometimes the technique that you learned is going to be implemented in a different way in a role than what you practiced during the technique. And so jiu-jitsu is very grey. Techniques are black and white, rules are black and white. The way you implement those techniques and the way that you implement the rules, very grey area. And so life is often like jiu-jitsu. I've heard quotes where life is like a dance where you've got two partners and you're taking similar steps to one another to then make the dance work. I personally think it's more like a grapple, because sometimes you're on the bottom, shit's really hard, and at the same time you're doing everything in your power just to hold on and just to survive. And then there are other moments where you are on the top position and at the same time you're dominating and you're doing everything in your power to do the best that you can every single time. And sometimes you've got good days, sometimes you've got bad days, right? Some days, on the good days, you're listening to yourself, you're listening to other people, you're taking others into consideration, you're creating that momentum to then build that snowball of your life that's going to go in a positive direction. There are other days where you feel like shit, nothing's gone right, and you feel like that everything's just lost because you didn't do one thing that you said you were going to do. And that's the power of not keeping your promises to yourself, because when you don't listen to yourself and you do exactly the opposite of what you said that you're going to do, that eats at you, and it eats at your psyche going, I told you you weren't that good. I told you that you weren't going to do it. You're talking shit. That's not, what do you think? You're going to be successful? All the little things that you don't do, all those little promises that you don't make to yourself, that's where that negative self-talk comes from that feeling of that psyche eating at you and talking shit about you for not doing the things that you said that you were going to do. And so that's why when you listen to yourself, you also need to take that with a grain of salt, because sometimes your brain just talks shit just for fun, right? Some people love talking shit to other people. Some people love talking shit to themselves. I know people, and you do it sometimes too at the gym, where you go, you know what, I'm not fucking training hard enough, I'm being a bit of a bitch, so I'm gonna fucking lift some heavier weight, right? Then you go and lift heavier weight, and at the same time, you're as sore as anything. And then after a few days, you just go, you know what, maybe I shouldn't have fucking lifted that weight. Probably didn't need to, right? And that's what I'm saying, right? We all do that to ourselves. And so by learning to listen, by learning to be present and actually understanding what's black, what's white, and what's grey, you have a better grasp of things that are about to happen. Things that, because of past events, you're able to be more present and go, oh, hey, you know what, I'm not going to do that thing again, right? That's what remembering is for. It's not so that you fucking ruminate and just let things simmer in your mind and think about all the things that you didn't say that you could have said, or things that you could have done but didn't do. It's so that then when you fuck up, you don't fuck up again. And that's what happens when you don't listen to yourself. You end up in this loop of consistently fucking up all the time. And Murphy's Law is a great fucking example. When bad shit happens and you constantly think about bad shit, then the bad shit's gonna happen. Murphy's Law also applies in the opposite direction too. Anytime that there's good, even more good happens. And so, as I was saying before, we have a tendency to think negatively, but at the same time, the more that we think positively and not mental masturbation, like everything's fucking positive, sunshines and rainbows everywhere, and this and this and this. It's more, hey, look, this is a pretty shitty situation, but you know what? Here's the light of it, and let's focus on the light. Hey, you know what? This is a really good situation, but at the same time, here's a little bit of dark to it. Here are the consequences of things that may happen if we're not careful. And we focus a little on that as well as the light as well. And so that's all part of listening. And so whether we listen to each other, whether we listen to ourselves, we have a better opportunity to grasp what's truly real, what's perception, and then also at the same time, whose opinion matters, whose opinion's real, whose opinion's just talking shit. And so having this level of discernment, this level of understanding, it helps you in everyday life. I know it's helped me. Like, especially when I didn't know things, I'd go and see a therapist, I'd see a coach, I'd have an honest conversation with myself and with people that I trusted about my circumstances, so that then not only am I not just listening to my own self-talk, but sometimes that self-talk might be just complete horseshit too, then I also listen to other people that I see the value in what they say. And that's why you've got to choose your friends wisely. That's why you've got to choose the people in your life quite wisely. It's like having a council, like in The Godfather, where everyone was just all together and then they'd talk to one another and counsel one another. It's like the Last Supper. That's why Christ had 12 disciples. It's not because everyone just followed Christ, but it was because Christ could actually converse with each of them as well. And so sometimes you get a Judas, but at the same time, like that's the risk of being friends with someone, right?
Yeah.
And so a part of that cohort being able to assimilate together is that they listen to one another. And then at the same time, those people are listening to themselves and going, hey, look, this person values the things that I value. We have great chemistry, we have a great connection, we have great conversations. This person's worth being in our lives. And so that's how we build the network. And so I know I'm reiterating things that I've already said, but I just want to drill this down. This boils down to listening properly and being as present as possible, so that then you can maximize the things that you want to achieve in your life, whether that's now, being present, being happy, being grateful, or further down the track, whether it's material things or relationships or just anything in general. It comes down to listening and your ability to listen at a level that will then sufficiently then put you in a position to get what it is that you're after.
And listening takes you to another level as well for your self-development. For example, take this, like at my birthday dinner last year, the waitress, she remembered each and every one. There was probably 14 of
Yeah,
us
she didn't even write it down.
She didn't even write it down. So that's listening. My theory is, what I would probably do in that situation is associate whatever's meal, like their choice of meal, with a certain person, and then when she went across to repeat it, she could remember it that way.
I must say, that was impressive as shit. That was impressive as shit. I honestly forgot about that, but now that you bring it up, now that I remember, I'm like, fuck yeah, that's right. Like, she was a proper listener. That
Exactly. So that's that example of listening there, right? That sets her apart from your normal everyday waitress, who half the time, well, not half the time, like sometimes you find, sometimes they can't even get like a simple order right, like one thing, and they're writing it down. Let alone that extreme example of remembering 14 people
That lady's going places, man.
Yeah, so see what I mean?
Wherever that lady is now, I hope you're doing well.
Yeah.
And that your memories is serving you and paying you a lot more than what that job was probably paying you. So, that was an outstanding example of listening. Like, and I think really that sums it up. Like, being able to properly be present in the company that you're in and understand what they want, understand what they need, and then remember it at a level that would just blow anybody away. Like, you become unstoppable. Like, that level of presence, that level of aura, like, unstoppable. Financial, relationships, family, travel, business, whatever it is, like, that level, that's an elite example of what that proper listening does. Like, because like I said, I didn't even remember, but as soon as you brought it up, I'm like, fuck yeah, that lady was the shit. Like, and so that's the power of listening, man. I think that sums it up.
Yeah, 100%, I agree with you.
Thank you for tuning into today's episode. I hope you listened and got a lot out of it, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.
Yeah, please like, share and subscribe and have a great day. Thank you.
See ya.